In this lesson, you will learn how to use the webhooks and access the properties which are sent by ALM Octane. In our last session, we learned how to handle the event type triggered by the webhook and react on the submission mode add, update, and delete. And now we will try to access the information and print it out in a Python Flask server, which are sent by ALM Octane. So in order to print out the information, let's go to the Python implementation, and here we can already see that we accessed here just few information. So let's say we would like to access additional informations, like let's say here we have the server URL. The server URL is also on the request JSON. It's flat on the JSON as an entity. So let's say we enter a server URL. Then we have the shared space ID. Shared space ID. Here we do it again. Request.json. And here we enter shared space ID. And as this is integer, we need to convert it, otherwise we will face issues by printing it. And same we will apply to the workspace ID. Workspace ID, so basically I can copy and paste it here. So now I have the workspace ID. Let's also look for the user email. User_mail is request.json. So user name, and on that username I have an additional attribute for mail. I think it's email. Okay, so like that. And now just let's edit. Doesn't matter what type we have here. So I will, for now, let's keep it. We'll just say here. We copy it. We do it here. So here I will say this is basically the server URL, what I'm receiving, and after this I have the server URL. And now I will print out all the other attributes, the shared space ID, shared space ID, workspace ID, workspace ID, user mail as well as it's actually event type. It was already wrong in the last session. So this is event type, and now we print out here event type as well. And this I can, for now I can get rid of. And so now let's run it. So this is running now, and let me see in Octane if we are receiving something. Let's go to the quality module and just do a few changes on the manual test in order to see something. Okay, so I'm in the quality module. Go to test. And let's do here a simple change just by providing a dot. And here the webhook is already activated. I have activated it in the previous session, so I will not do it again. So it's already in the business rule. Now it's saving the entity. Entity is saved. Let's see if I see something in PyCharm. I can see here. So it was an update I received for the server, exactly the attributes I wanted to print out. I can see them here directly. this is fine. But now I would like to see also changes about the entity, because these are now general changes, and I would like to see something what is happening on the entity itself. To do so, let's stop it here for now. To do so, what I need to do is I need to first of all define the data and grab the data. I'll come to this quickly. Just let me define it here. So we have the JSON, and on the JSON, with all those properties, we have also the data, and the data is exactly what is committed to Octane and from Octane. So let's say we just for now print out the data itself, and this is the JSON data colon like this. And I think as the format need to be string, I need to provide here a string as well. Okay, so that's it. I will run it again. So let's do some changes, some more changes. Go again here. Now I will get rid of the dot, save it. Changes are applied. And here I can see now on the data, I have first of all this bracket, which shows me that the data set is can contain multiple changes. Yeah, so I need to make sure that I handle, even there is one change, I need to handle all different changes. And then I see the manual test ID and the additional parameters which are there. So let's grab those. So let's stop it here. And the first thing we need to do is on that data set, we say for data set in data. Now I need to remove it from here and put it here, just in order to get the real JSON. Otherwise it will not work for me on data, because the data will just be converted in a string, and here I would like to handle it as an array, as a list where I need to navigate from. So let's say we need, the first thing we need is the entity and its type. So it should be like entity type equals dataset. Now we go here by dataset, we are in this, and now we need to say entity. And as entity has again an array, we need to go here and say we would like to get the type. So now we have the entity type, we need the entity ID, which will be the second attribute within the entity, so ID. Then we have the author, which again has a type. So let's say to get the author, I need to go to entity. Then from here I need to go to author. And from here I need to get, let's say we get the ID. So it's the author ID. So we write it down here, ID. And same we do for email quickly. Author mail. And this will be just email. So now I get the email. Let's grab the name. Entity name. And I think you get the picture how to grab those different attributes out of it. So you will continue, get the face and so on. So let's also grab the face. Let's see, face is on the same. So we will get the entity face dataset entity. Then we have here the face, and now on that face I'd like to have the ID, which is face manual test new. So this would be the way to get all those information. Now let's print all this information. So we go back here and say print. We would like to have the entity underscore type like this, plus entity type, and this is what I will now use to print all the different properties we have here. This entity ID. For the ID, I need to make sure that I have the string, otherwise it will result in a conflict, string and integer. Here as well, this is the author ID. Okay, the rest should be fine. So this is the entity ID. Let's see, here we have the author ID. We have the author mail. We have the entity name. And the last is the entity face. So, and run it again, and we are good to go. So now let's print it out. Just do a change again on that entity, save it, and we'll immediately print out all the information I need. I can see here I have the general information, then the JSON data which I was printing out here on the top, and now I have the test manual. It was a manual test. The entity ID was 2003, which is fine. Then we have the author ID, author email. Let's check. Author is not displayed. Let's bring it in. Author email is fine. What else? We had the face new and name. I think this is also fine. Verify and face is also new. So this is very simple to grab out the webhook information and also general information as well as entity specific information, and based on this you can now do basically everything, all the post processing you would like to do. You can do it now using this webhook approach.